They handed me a crying infant with the same hospital tag, the same pink blanket, the same weight listed on the chart. But mothers don't forget their baby's scent, and this child smelled like a stranger. My arms went cold. My breath stopped. I looked down at those tiny fists, that unfamiliar face, and my body knew what my mind refused to accept. This wasn't my daughter. Someone had taken her. And when I screamed for my husband, the man they whisper about in back rooms, the man who built an empire on fear, I watched his eyes turn black with a rage that would burn this hospital to ash. He pulled out his phone with one word: lockdown. Every door sealed, every exit blocked. No one was leaving until we found our baby. But what we discovered in those sterile white hallways was far worse than a mistake. It was a declaration of war. Hi, my beautiful family. Thank you so much for sticking around and showing me so much love and support. You have no idea how much it means to me. Listen, if you're already hooked on today's story and you can't wait to hear what happens, and I know you can't wait because this one is wild, then do these two things right now. Like and subscribe so you catch tomorrow's equally amazing story. Let's continue. The fluorescent lights above me buzzed like dying wasps. I could still feel the ghost of labor pains rippling through my exhausted body, still taste copper on my tongue from biting down through the final push. They had taken her immediately. Standard procedure, they said. Just routine measurements and tests. 23 minutes. That's how long my daughter existed in this world before I held her. 23 minutes that would haunt me forever. When Nurse Patricia walked back through those double doors, cradling a bundle of pink cotton, I reached up with trembling arms. My breasts ached with milk my body had prepared for 3 days now. My heart hammered against ribs that felt cracked and raw. I pulled back the blanket, expecting to see those perfect rosebud lips, that shock of dark hair we'd glimpsed on the ultrasound. Instead, I saw a stranger's child. The wrongness hit me like ice water in my veins. This baby's hair was lighter, almost auburn in the harsh hospital light. Her cry pitched differently, sharper, more frantic. But what shattered my reality wasn't what I saw. It was what I didn't smell. Every maternal instinct I possessed screamed in violent rejection. This infant smelled of antiseptic and powder, of nothing and no one. Not me. Not the 10 months she should have carried my scent from the inside. This isn't her. My voice came out strangled, barely human. This isn't my baby. Nurse Patricia's smile didn't waver, but something flickered behind her eyes, something rehearsed and cold. Mrs. Castellane, you're exhausted. First-time mothers often. Where is my daughter? The scream tore from my throat raw and primal, silencing the entire ward. The imposter baby wailed louder. Machines beeped in. Panicked rhythm. And in that moment, I watched my husband transform into the monster everyone feared. Salvine didn't argue with the nurse. He didn't ask questions. He pulled out his phone while his free hand moved to the gun holstered beneath his jacket. The one hospital security hadn't dared to confiscate. 3 words, spoken with the finality of an execution order. Lock it down. Within 90 seconds, armed men in black suits materialized at every exit. The hospital's electronic doors slammed shut with mechanical finality. Elevator panels went dark. The building's security system, now under his control, showed every hallway, every room, every person who thought they could walk out of here with our child. Someone had made the fatal mistake of stealing from Salvine Castellane, and he was about to teach the city why you don't touch what belongs to the devil. They placed the baby in my arms, and the world went wrong. Her weight was right. The bracelet matched my name. The blanket was the same soft pink they'd wrapped my daughter in before wheeling her away. But every cell in my body screamed, no, this wasn't her. This wasn't the life I had torn myself open to bring into the world. Something's wrong, I whispered. Salvine stood at the foot of the bed, jacket still on, shirt still buttoned, like he could hold the whole room together by will alone. His eyes softened when he looked at me, then sharpened when they dropped to the baby. He could feel it too, the wrongness. "This isn't her," I said louder. My voice cracked. "Patricia, this is not my child." Nurse Patricia's smile was as smooth as the waxed floor. "Mrs. Castellane, you're exhausted. First-time mothers often feel disconnected." I peeled back the blanket further. The baby's hair was lighter, a soft auburn instead of the dark ink we'd seen on ultrasound. Her cry cut high and shrill, not the low, wet wail that had split the air 23 minutes ago. But it was the smell that broke me. No milk, no iron, no trace of the hours she'd spent inside me, swimming in my blood and breath. This baby smelled like nothing, like soap and powder and someone else's life. "I'm a trauma surgeon." My voice shook. "I know shock. I know confusion. This is neither. This is not my baby." The imposter wailed harder, her fists flailing. My arms went numb. My breasts ached, ready for the child my body had been talking to for 10 months. Every kick, every hiccup, every whispered promise I'd made in the dark had been for someone else. "Swap her back," I said. "Now, bring me my daughter." "Mrs. Castellane." "Thessaly," Salvine said quietly. I looked at him, the man the city called a devil, the man who could make judges vanish and bullets appear. For the first time since I met him, he looked afraid. That terror lasted exactly 1 heartbeat. His gaze iced over. Whatever softness he kept just for me slid behind iron. He reached beneath his jacket, fingers brushing the gun security had pretended not to see. With his other hand, he took out his phone. "Lock it down," he said. One order, a death sentence disguised as logistics. Somewhere below us, systems obeyed. Doors hissed as magnetic locks engaged. Elevators froze between floors. Card readers went dead. The hospital became a cage with 1,000 hearts beating inside, and one missing. "Sir, you can't—" Patricia started. Salvine's head turned slowly. "You handed my wife the wrong child," he said. "Right now, I don't know if you're stupid or suicidal. Clarify." Her throat bobbed. "There must have been a mix-up in the nursery. I can—" "Then we go to the nursery." My voice came out raw. "Now." They tried to slow us with paperwork, with protocol, with soft words meant for ordinary husbands. Salvine walked past all of it. His men were already in the corridors, black suits and colder eyes, posted at every intersection. In the nursery, rows of clear boxes glowed under fluorescent light. Tiny lives labeled and ordered. Patricia went pale. I just stepped out for a minute." A pediatric resident ran in, breathless. "Lab just called. The heel stick sample we took when your baby was born, blood type O negative. The infant in your room is A positive." The floor dropped out from under me. "Wrong baby," I whispered. Patricia bolted. She didn't make it 3 steps before 2 of Salvine's men pinned her to the wall. The soft white of the maternity ward snapped, and the world I'd married into bared its teeth. The supply closet swallowed us whole. The lights were too bright. The smell of bleach was thick enough to choke on. They sat Patricia in a chair, tied her wrists with IV tubing. Fear made her pupils huge. "I want to believe you're a pawn," Salvine said, rolling a surgical clamp between his fingers like a coin. "Because if you're not, this gets educational." "I was told it was a private adoption," she blurted. "No one was getting hurt. The baby would go to a good family, I swear." "Whose signature?" His tone never rose. That was always worse. "Dr. Moretti, Vex Moretti, he—" Her eyes rolled back. Her body convulsed. Foam gathered at the corners of her mouth. "Shit!" I hissed, lunging forward. Her pocket bulged. I tore it open. An empty insulin pen clattered to the floor, plunger fully depressed. Not prescribed, not accidental. "Suicide dose," I said. Fast acting. She took it before we brought her in. Within 60 seconds, her pulse faded under my fingers. Her last secret bled out with her. One name. Dr. Vex Moretti. We stumbled back into the hallway, my gown gaping, blood still drying on my thighs. My body screamed to lie down and heal. My heart screamed louder. The nursery was no longer a comfort. It was a crime scene. Every crib we checked was filled with someone else's miracle. Every tag, every tiny wrist, every sleepy mouth. None were hers. Where is my daughter? I asked the room, the cameras, the walls. No one answered. A nurse pointed with a shaking hand to an empty space among the cribs, an imprint in the mattress, a blank slot on the clipboard. That was hers, she whispered. She was moved right after birth. Moved where? Salvine asked. No one knew. Somewhere in this locked building, or beyond it, our baby girl was breathing without us. Or not breathing at all. Dr. Vex Moretti's office smelled like leather and lies. Salvine kicked the door open without knocking. I followed, still in my hospital gown, still bleeding, still empty-armed. Moretti looked up from his mahogany desk, face carefully blank. Mr. Castellane, Mrs. Castellane, I heard about the confusion. Confusion? Salvine's voice was surgical. That's what you call stealing my daughter? Moretti's fingers twitched toward his desk phone. One of Salvine's men crushed the device under his boot. The sound of plastic cracking filled the silence. I don't know what Nurse Patricia told you, Moretti said carefully, but she was clearly disturbed. Mental health issues we were monitoring. She gave us your name before she killed herself. I stepped closer. Insulin overdose. Professional. Someone gave her a suicide protocol in case she got caught. His throat worked. That's insane. Salvine moved to the computer. His tech specialist, a wiry man called Cypher, slid into the chair and started typing. Encrypted files. Heavy protection, government grade. You can't access I can access anything. Cypher's fingers flew. Just takes time. We didn't have time. My daughter was out there, alone, in hands that had already proven capable of murder. My body ached. My breasts leaked milk that would never reach her. The world narrowed to this room, this man, these secrets. Thessaly, Salvine said quietly. He'd found something, a filing cabinet, forced open. Inside, manila folders thick with documents, birth certificates, adoption papers, all falsified. I grabbed one at random. Baby boy, born 3 months ago, listed as stillborn in hospital records. Sold for $750,000 to a couple in Connecticut. Another folder, twin girls, recorded as miscarriage at 20 weeks, actually born healthy and separated. One to Boston, one to Miami. $1.2 million total. 15 years, Cypher said from the computer. He's been doing this for 15 years. Over 200 babies. The number hit like a fist. 200 families destroyed, 200 children stolen, 200 sets of empty arms. Our daughter, I said. My voice shook. Where is she? Moretti's face had gone gray. I want a lawyer. Salvine picked up a letter opener from the desk, tested its weight. You'll want a priest. Wait! Moretti's hands came up. Your baby was flagged before she was even born. High value. Someone specifically requested Castellane blood. This wasn't random. This was targeted. My stomach dropped. Who? I don't know names. I just coordinate. But there's a nurse, Elena Vasquez. She handles the physical transfers. She called in sick today, but she'll know where your daughter went. Cypher cut in. Got her address. Oak Park, 20 minutes west. Security footage, I said. Show me the parking garage. Show me who took my baby out of this building. Moretti's hands shook as he pulled up the feed. We watched in grainy black and white as a man in scrubs wheeled a portable incubator through the empty garage at 3:47 a.m., 40 minutes after Zephyrine was born, 40 minutes while I was being stitched and cleaned, while Salvine was making calls to family, while our daughter was being stolen. The man's face caught the camera for just a second as he loaded the incubator into a black van. Ice flooded my veins. I know him, I whispered. Salvine's hand found my shoulder. Who? Dr. Kane Sorrento. The name tasted like poison. I worked with him 5 years ago at Mercy General. He was selling fentanyl from the pharmacy, falsifying patient records to cover it. I reported him. He lost his license, his career, everything. And now he's taking everything from you, Salvine said quietly. The van's license plate was visible for 3 frames. Cypher ran it. Registered to a shell corporation, Barone Medical Transport. That's Barone. Salvine's jaw clenched. Tessera Barone, my dead enemy's widow. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't just trafficking. This was war disguised as business, revenge wrapped in profit. They'd waited until I was most vulnerable, then ripped out my heart. Elena Vasquez, I said. We need her now. We left Moretti zip-tied to his desk chair with a guard watching. The drive to Oak Park took 16 minutes. Salvine drove like the streets belonged to him. My body screamed with every bump, every turn. I'd given birth 4 hours ago. I should have been sleeping, healing, holding my baby. Instead, I was hunting. Elena's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a converted brownstone. The door was unlocked. Bad sign. We entered with guns drawn. Salvine's men first, then him, then me with nothing but rage and maternal instinct. The apartment was warm, coffee still hot on the counter, a suitcase half packed on the bed. She'd run recently. Minutes, not hours. She knew we were coming, Salvine said. I opened the suitcase. Underneath clothes, I found a burner phone. Cypher grabbed it, started scrolling. Text from an unknown number. They know, disappear now. Someone's cleaning up, I said. Patricia dead. Elena running, they're eliminating witnesses. A crash from the bathroom. We moved as one. The window was open, fire escape empty. On the sink, a note scrawled in lipstick. I'm sorry, basement, sub 3. She left us a clue, I said. Or a trap, Salvine countered. Either way, we were going back to that hospital, back to where my daughter had been stolen, because somewhere in that building was a secret worth dying for, and I would kill anyone who stood between me and my child. Elena Vasquez hung from a laundry chute in the hospital's industrial basement, medical tubing wrapped around her throat like a grotesque necklace. Her face was purple, eyes bulging, tongue swollen. Dead maybe 30 minutes. I'd seen worse in my years as a trauma surgeon, but those bodies had been strangers. This one had answers. Don't touch anything, Salvine said, but I was already moving forward. I'm a doctor. I know how to examine a body without contaminating a scene. My hands found the pockets of her scrubs. Empty, but something crinkled near her hip, an inner pocket sewn into the fabric lining. I pulled out a key card. No label, just a magnetic strip and the number 3 embossed in the corner. Sub-basement level 3, I said. That's what her note meant, but this hospital only has 2 basement levels on the blueprints. Cypher pulled up building schematics on his tablet. You're right, official plans stop at B2, but there's a gap in the foundation diagram. About 15 feet of unaccounted vertical space between B2 and the bedrock. Hidden level, Salvine said, built off the books. We found the access point behind a decommissioned MRI machine in the old radiology wing. The keycard clicked. A door I'd walked past 1,000 times during my residency opened to reveal a stairwell descending into darkness. The air changed as we went down, colder, thicker. The smell hit me halfway down, formula, antiseptic, and something rotten underneath. Something organic decaying. My stomach turned. If my daughter is down here, then we get her, Salvine finished. His hand found mine, squeezed once, the monster everyone feared showing me the man underneath. The hallway at the bottom belonged in a horror film. Flickering fluorescent lights, peeling linoleum, abandoned surgical suites from when the hospital expanded in the 1980s and forgot to demolish the old infrastructure. But these rooms weren't abandoned anymore. The 3rd door on the left was cracked open, light spilled out, and underneath it, sound. Soft rhythmic breathing. I pushed the door open. 5 cribs, medical equipment humming quietly, temperature-controlled environment, a changing station stocked with diapers and formula. Everything a newborn needed to survive. 3 of the cribs held babies. I ran to the first one. Wrong. Boy, maybe 2 weeks old, sleeping peacefully. The second, girl, darker skin, too young. The third, none of them are Zephyrine, I said. My voice broke, but I recognized something else, the hospital bracelets on their tiny wrists. I pulled out my phone, accessed the hospital database I still had clearance for, cross-referenced the names. They're all listed as stillborn, I whispered. Official death certificates filed. Parents buried empty coffins. Salvine moved to a whiteboard mounted on the wall. A feeding schedule, meticulously detailed. 8 names listed with times and amounts. The last name made my knees buckle. Zephyrine Castellane, transferred. Site B, 6:15 a.m., 6 hours ago. While I was screaming for my baby, while Salvine was locking down the hospital, while we were finding bodies and clues, she was already gone. Site B, Salvine said. Where? I scanned the room desperately. There had to be more information. Records, addresses, something. A filing cabinet in the corner. I tore through it. Patient folders for each baby, medical histories, birth weights, buyer information. My hands froze on one file. The parents' names I recognized. A state senator's wife. Their baby was in crib too, alive and healthy, while they'd held a funeral 3 weeks ago. This is monstrous, I breathed. This is organized, Salvine corrected. He held up another file. Each baby sold for between $500,000 and $2 million. But look at Zephyrine's sheet. I grabbed it. Purchase price, $3.5 million. Special request. Castellane bloodline, delivered to TB priority. TB, Salvine said. To Sarah Barone. The widow of the man Salvine had killed 3 years ago. The woman who'd sworn revenge. She hadn't just stolen our baby for money. She'd stolen her to make us feel the same helpless agony she'd felt burying her husband. Where would she take Zephyrine? I asked. Cypher was already searching. Tessera Barone owns property all over Illinois. Primary residence is in Lake Forest, 40 minutes north, a state called Belvedere. That's Site B, I said with certainty. That's where my daughter is. Salvine pulled out his phone, started making calls. Within minutes, he'd mobilized 24 men, acquired blueprints of the estate, and arranged for weapons that would turn a rescue into a war. But I barely heard the logistics, because I was still staring at the whiteboard, at the 8 names, at the 3 babies sleeping peacefully in cribs, unaware they'd been stolen from mothers who thought they'd died. We can't leave them here, I said. We're coming back for them, Salvine promised, but Zephyrine first, always her first. I understood. I'd make the same choice, but it didn't stop the guilt from choking me. We were turning to leave when I noticed something else, a medical waste bin in the corner, overflowing. I pulled the top layer aside and found syringes, dozens of them, all labeled with the same drug, midazolam, a sedative. They're drugging the babies, I said, keeping them quiet, manageable. That's why the 3 infants slept so peacefully. That's why Zephyrine would have been easy to transport. They'd sedated my 6-hour-old daughter and driven her out of Chicago while she was too drugged to cry. Rage flooded me so completely I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. My hands shook with the need to hurt someone, everyone, anyone who touched my child. Thessaly, Salvine's voice cut through the red. We're going to get her, and then we're going to make them pay. But you have to stay sharp, stay focused. She needs you functional, not furious. He was right. I forced the rage down, locked it away, let the surgeon in me take over. Clinical, precise, deadly. How long does it take to mobilize? I asked. 20 minutes. Then we leave in 10, because every minute she's there is a minute she's not with me. We ascended the stairs, left the hidden nursery behind, but I memorized every detail, every crib, every file, every baby who deserved to go home. When this was over, I'd make sure they did. But first, Zephyrine, my daughter, stolen, sedated, and 40 minutes away, in the hands of a woman who wanted my heart to stop beating. She was about to get her wish, just not the way she expected. Dr. Vex Moretti screamed through the gag. We'd moved him to the hidden nursery, poetic justice, forcing him to face the crime scene he'd orchestrated. Salvine's men had him strapped to a surgical table, the same kind where he'd examined stolen babies before selling them. I'm going to remove the gag, I said. You're going to tell us everything about Site B. If you lie, I start removing things you need. I wasn't bluffing. The surgical kit laid out beside him, scalpels, forceps, hemostats, belonged to me once. I knew exactly how to use each one. Salvine pulled the gag free. Moretti gasped, face slick with sweat. You can't do this. I have rights. You sold 200 babies. My voice was ice. You lost your rights the first time you ripped a child from her mother. I didn't hurt anyone. The babies went to good homes, families who couldn't adopt legally because of technicalities. Technicalities. Salvine picked up a scalpel. Like criminal records, like being on watch lists, like being the kind of people legitimate agencies won't touch. Moretti's eyes followed the blade. I was helping people. I grabbed his hand, forced it flat against the table, selected a hemostat, spring-loaded clamp used for pinching blood vessels closed, positioned it over his index fingernail. The client list, I said. Who bought my daughter? To Sarah Barone, paid $3.5 million. But I swear, I don't know what she wants with the baby. I squeezed the hemostat. It bit into the nail bed. Moretti howled. Wrong answer. Try again. Why did she specifically request Castellane blood? Revenge! The word exploded from him. She wanted you to feel what she felt. When Salvine killed her husband, she lost everything. Her power, her protection, her reason to live. So she waited, watched. When she heard Mrs. Castellane was pregnant, she saw her chance. Salvine's jaw worked. How long has this trafficking ring been operating? 18 years, started small, just a few babies a year to cover operational costs. But it grew. Word spread. We had protection. From who? I demanded. Moretti's face went pale. If I tell you, I'm dead. You're already dead. Salvine's voice was final. The question is whether you die easy or hard. The hemostat was still clamped on Moretti's finger. I twisted it slightly. He screamed. Again. City administration, he gasped. Someone high up, they made sure investigations stalled, records disappeared, complaints got buried. I don't know who, I swear. I just know the payments went through a shell account every quarter. Cypher looked up from his tablet. I'm tracing the account now. Whoever's protecting this ring has been taking $500,000 annually. The babies, I said. Tell me about the buyers. Who are they? Moretti's resistance crumbled. Politicians who can't risk adoption scrutiny, criminals building legitimate-looking families, celebrities hiding affairs and unwanted pregnancies. One couple in New York paid $2 million for twins. IVF hadn't worked and they were desperate. I have the full client list encrypted in my office computer. Already got it, Cypher said. 12 active clients, most recent transactions within the last 6 months. Site B, Salvine cut in. Belvedere Estate. What's the setup? It's where high-value transfers finalize before international transport. Tessera has medical staff there, security, everything needed to keep babies healthy until buyers collect them. She moves about 4 babies a month through that location. My blood went cold. How many are there right now? I don't know exactly. Maybe 6, 8? And Zephyrine? Moretti's eyes dropped. She was supposed to stay there for 72 hours. Let the sedation clear, make sure she's healthy. Then, he stopped. Then what? I leaned closer. Then she gets transferred to permanent placement. International. Tessera has a buyer in Prague who specializes in children from powerful families. They raise them, use them for leverage later. Blackmail, manipulation. It's a long game. Rage made my vision white. You were going to sell my daughter to be raised as a weapon? I just coordinate. I don't make the deals. I grabbed the scalpel. Salvine's hand caught my wrist. He's more useful alive. For now. He was right. I forced myself to breathe, to think like a surgeon, not a mother. The estate security, I said. Layout, numbers, capabilities. Moretti talked. 12 armed guards, former military contractors, biometric locks on the medical wing, cameras covering every approach. Tessera didn't trust anyone, not even her own people. The medical wing, Cypher said, pulling up blueprints. It's here, west side of the main house. But look at the ventilation system specs. It's 3 times larger than needed for a standard clinic. I studied the diagrams. Because there are more babies than the official records show. This isn't just a transfer point. It's long-term storage. She's keeping inventory. The word made me sick. Inventory. Like my daughter was a product. How do we get in? Salvine asked. Moretti's voice shook. There's a service entrance on the north side. Food deliveries, maintenance. It's less monitored, but still locked down tight. You'd need access codes. which you're going to provide. I don't have them, only Tessera and Dr. Sorrento. Sorrento's there? My voice cracked. The man who'd stolen my daughter, who'd orchestrated this revenge, who'd waited 5 years for his chance. He's overseeing the medical care, making sure the babies stay healthy until transfer. He arrived 2 hours ago. 2 hours? While we'd been finding bodies and interrogating witnesses, Kane Sorrento had been with my daughter, touching her, examining her, maybe hurting her. "We go now," I said. Salvine nodded, looked at his men. "Load up. Full tactical. This isn't surveillance. This is extraction and elimination." They moved like a machine. Weapons distributed, body armor strapped on, vehicles staged. Moretti watched with growing horror. "You can't assault the estate. Tessera has connections, law enforcement." "So do I," Salvine said, "and mine are better." I changed out of my hospital gown into tactical gear one of Salvine's female operatives brought. Everything hurt. My body was destroyed from childbirth. Blood still seeped. My breasts were rock hard with milk meant for Zephyrine. But pain didn't matter. Only getting her back mattered. Cypher approached with his tablet. "Security feed from Belvedere. I hacked their system. You should see this." He showed me a grainy image from the medical wing. A man in scrubs leaning over an incubator. Even through the poor resolution, I recognized him. Dr. Kane Sorrento, holding my daughter. He was alive, which meant I was going to kill him. But first, I was going to make him tell me every single thing he'd done to her, every touch, every procedure, every second he'd stolen, and then I was going to make him hurt the way I hurt. "Move out," Salvine ordered. We left Moretti strapped to the table with a guard. If we didn't return, instructions were clear. Make his death last days. The drive to Lake Forest took 37 minutes. Every second was agony. Every mile felt like a century. My daughter was breathing without me, growing without me, existing in a world where I didn't hold her. But I was coming, and hell was coming with me. Lake Forest dripped with old money and older secrets. Belvedere Estate sat on 12 acres behind iron gates that cost more than most houses. We parked 3 blocks away in a commercial lot, weapons hidden under coats that looked expensive enough to belong in this neighborhood. 6 hours until a private plane leaves from Palwaukee Airport, Cypher said, monitoring communications. Manifest list medical cargo, 4 infant transport units. Your daughter's in one of them. 4 babies, leaving Illinois, disappearing into international networks where even Salvine's reach would thin. We had 6 hours to stop a machine that had been operating perfectly for 18 years. I checked my gun, 9mm, compact, loaded. Salvine had taught me to shoot 3 years ago, back when I thought his world would never touch mine, back when I was naive. "You don't have to come in," Salvine said quietly. "My men can extract her." "She's going to wake up in strange arms, drugged and scared, not knowing why her mother isn't there." My voice was steel. "The first face she sees clearly will be mine. I don't care what I have to go through to make that happen." He nodded. Understood. This wasn't about capability. It was about necessity. Some things only a mother could do. We approached from the north like Moretti had suggested. The service entrance was steel reinforced, card reader glowing red. Cypher worked his magic. 15 seconds later, it flashed green. The door opened into a corridor that smelled like industrial bleach. Empty. Too empty. "They're expecting us," I whispered. "They're expecting someone," Salvine corrected. "Question is whether they know it's us specifically or just feel paranoid after Elena's death." We moved like smoke through the lower level, found the stairs to the main house. Voices drifted from above, casual, relaxed. Security guards on rotation, confident in their fortress. That confidence was about to cost them everything. Salvine's men split into 3 teams. Team 1 would breach the main entrance. Loud, obvious, drawing attention. Team 2 would secure the perimeter, cut communications, prevent escape. Team 3, us, would go directly to the medical wing while everyone focused on the frontal assault. The plan was surgical. Salveen had run operations like this 100 times, but he'd never had this much to lose. The signal came through our earpieces. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The explosion wasn't huge, shaped charges designed to blow locks without collapsing structures. But the sound was massive, echoing through the estate like Judgment Day arriving. Shouts, running feet, gunfire. We moved in the opposite direction. Through the kitchen, down a hallway lined with art worth millions, to a door marked Private, Authorized Personnel Only. This lock was biometric. Fingerprint scanner. Moretti's codes won't work here, Cypher said. I looked at my own hands, former trauma surgeon. I'd worked in this hospital system for 7 years before switching to private practice. My fingerprints were in databases, security clearances that might not have been revoked when I left. I pressed my thumb to the scanner. It flashed green. Sometimes the system's laziness worked in our favor. The medical wing smelled exactly like the hidden nursery. Formula, antiseptic, and underneath it all, the sweet, sour smell of infant. My breasts ached. My body recognized the proximity of babies even if my arms stayed empty. The hallway opened into a large room. Hospital-grade lighting. 23 cribs arranged in neat rows. Temperature controls maintaining perfect environment. Everything a stolen baby needed except their mother's love. Some infants slept. Some cried quietly. Some lay too still, too sedated. I ran down the rows, checking faces, checking wristbands, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. Not here, not here, not here. Then, crib 7. Dark hair, rosebud lips, skin the exact shade of olive that came from my Mediterranean grandfather, and Salveen's Italian blood. Zephyrine, my daughter, alive, breathing, real. I scooped her up and the world righted itself. She was warm, solid, perfect. The smell of her made my milk let down instantly, soaking through my shirt. My body recognized what my mind had been screaming. This was mine. This was the life I'd been talking to for 10 months. "Hi, baby," I whispered. "Mommy's here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I let them take you." She was lethargic from sedation, but her eyes fluttered open. Unfocused, confused, but alive. Her tiny hand found my finger and gripped. That grip undid me. I started crying and couldn't stop. "We need to move," Salveen said gently, but his eyes were wet too, looking at his daughter for the first time since birth. Everyone freezes. The voice came from behind us, cold, familiar, poisonous. I turned slowly, cradling Zephyrine against my chest. Dr. Kane Sorrento stood in the doorway, unarmed but smiling. That same entitled smile he'd worn when I'd reported him 5 years ago. The smile that said he was smarter than everyone else, that rules didn't apply to him, that he always won in the end. "Thessaly," he said, "you look terrible. Childbirth really takes it out of you, doesn't it?" "You're going to die today," I said. My voice didn't shake, didn't waver, simple statement of fact. "Maybe," he shrugged, "but I've already won. I wanted you to feel helpless, to know that all your morals and ethics and noble reporting couldn't protect what you loved most. And for 6 beautiful hours, you felt exactly what I felt when you destroyed my career." "Your career destroyed itself," I said. "You were stealing fentanyl and selling it to addicts. You were killing people for profit." "I was surviving in a broken system," he corrected. "But you couldn't let that go. Had to play hero, had to ruin me. So I waited, watched. When I heard through my contacts that the great Thessaly Oaks was pregnant, that she'd married into the Castellane Empire, I saw my opportunity." "You partnered with Tessera Barone," Salveen said. "Used her trafficking ring to steal our daughter." "I upgraded her operation," Sorrento said proudly. "Made it more efficient, more profitable. She wanted revenge. I wanted to watch you suffer. Win-win." Gunfire echoed from deeper in the estate. Salveen's men fighting Tessera's security. The assault was working but messy. People were dying in other rooms while we stood here talking. "Where's Tessera?" I asked. "Watching." Sorrento gestured to a camera mounted in the corner. She's in her office, enjoying the show. This is her revenge after all. She wants to see your face when, Salvine shot him. One bullet. Center mass. Sorrento's eyes went wide with shock. He looked down at the spreading red stain on his scrubs, then up at Salvine. "You're supposed to monologue longer," he gasped. "I'm busy," Salvine said. Sorrento dropped to his knees, then his face. Blood pooled beneath him. His breathing went shallow, then stopped. 5 years of planning, 18 years of trafficking, hundreds of lives destroyed. And he died in 14 seconds because he talked too much. I should have felt something. Satisfaction, closure, justice. But all I felt was my daughter's weight in my arms and the desperate need to get her out of this place. "The other babies," I said. "We take them all. Thessaly, all of them. Every single one. They're not staying here another second." Salvine looked at me, saw something in my face that made him nod. He spoke into his comm. "Extraction team to medical wing. We're taking 23 infants. Bring transport." His men arrived within minutes, carried babies in their massive arms with surprising gentleness. These men who killed for a living, cradling stolen children like they were made of light. We were moving toward the exit when Tessera Barone appeared. She was smaller than I expected, mid-50s, elegant in designer clothes, hair perfectly styled even in the middle of an assault on her home. But her eyes were dead. Grief and rage had carved her into something hollow. "You killed my husband," she said to Salvine. "He tried to kill me first," Salvine replied. "Lost that particular game. So I took your child, made you feel what I felt. Fair exchange." "Nothing about this is fair," I said. "These babies didn't choose our war. They're innocent." "So was mine," the Sarah whispered. "My daughter died because of what you did to her father. 16 years old and she hung herself. That's on you." The words hit like bullets. I'd known Salvine had killed, had destroyed families, ruined lives, built his empire on violence. But somehow I'd never thought about the children left behind, the daughters who lost fathers, the mothers who lost everything. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "I'm sorry your daughter died. No parent should—" "Don't," her voice cracked. "Don't you dare sympathize with me while holding your alive baby. You got her back. Mine is still dead." "Then killing more children won't bring her back," I said. "To Sarah, this has to end." "It does end." She pulled a gun from her jacket. "Today." She pointed it at Zephyrin. Everything slowed. I saw Salvine moving, saw his gun coming up, saw Tessera's finger tightening on the trigger. I turned, put my body between the gun and my daughter, felt the impact like fire in my back. The world went sideways. I heard Salvine scream, heard more gunfire, felt Zephyrin being pulled from my arms. Then darkness ate everything. Pain woke me. Not the dull ache of childbirth, this was sharp, specific, screaming from my left shoulder blade. I tried to move and agony whited out my vision. "Don't!" Salvine's voice, close, raw. "You've been shot. Bullet went through your shoulder. Missed everything vital, but you've lost blood." I forced my eyes open. We were in a vehicle moving fast. An SUV. I was lying across the back seat, head in Salvine's lap. His hands pressed gauze against my back, keeping pressure on the wound. "Zephyrin!" I gasped. "Safe." He shifted slightly, and I saw her, in a car seat beside us, sleeping peacefully, alive, whole, untouched. Relief hit so hard I started crying. I thought, when she pointed the gun, "You put yourself between them." His voice cracked. "You took a bullet meant for our daughter." "Of course I did." I tried to sit up. Failed. Tessera, dead. No emotion in that word. Just fact. I put 2 rounds in her chest before she could fire again. She's gone. Good. The thought should have horrified me. I'd spent my life saving people, not celebrating their deaths. But Tessera Barone had pointed a gun at my newborn. She'd orchestrated the theft of my daughter. She'd built an empire on stolen children. Her death was mercy the world didn't deserve to give her. "The other babies?" I asked. "All 23 extracted. My men are delivering them to Northwestern Memorial with instructions to contact the FBI. This is bigger than we can handle quietly." We pulled up to a private medical clinic on the outskirts of Chicago. Salvine's personal physician met us at the door, Dr. Reeve, a woman who'd patched up more gunshot wounds than most trauma surgeons saw in a lifetime. "Shoulder wound through and through," Salvine said, carrying me inside while another man brought Zephyrine. "She gave birth 7 hours ago. Be careful." Dr. Reeve worked efficiently. Local anesthetic, irrigation, sutures. The bullet had missed bone and major vessels. Lucky. I'd be in pain for weeks, but I'd heal. "The baby needs examination," I said through gritted teeth as Dr. Reeve stitched. "She was sedated with midazolam approximately 6 hours ago. Need to check vitals, neurological function." "Already on it," Dr. Reeve said. Her nurse was examining Zephyrine on a table across the room, gentle hands checking reflexes, listening to her heart. "She's perfect," the nurse called out. "Sedation is wearing off, no signs of distress, healthy baby girl." Perfect. My daughter was perfect. I let myself breathe for the first time since this nightmare started. Dr. Reeve finished stitching and moved to Zephyrine, drew blood, ran tests, checked everything twice. An hour later, she handed me results. Completely healthy. The sedation was light, just enough to keep her calm during transport. No lasting effects. She's going to be fine. I held Zephyrine while Dr. Reeve helped me arrange a nursing position that didn't strain my shoulder. The moment my daughter latched, the world made sense again. This was what my body had been screaming for. This connection, this purpose. She nursed hungrily, her tiny hand resting on my breast. I memorized every detail, the softness of her hair, the way her ears curled slightly at the top, the perfect bow of her lips. "I'm sorry," I whispered to her. "I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you from the start, but I promise, this will never happen again. No one will ever take you from me." Salvine sat beside us, his hand on my uninjured shoulder. We didn't speak, didn't need to. Everything that mattered was in this moment. My phone rang. Dr. Reeve had retrieved it from my hospital gown. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. "Mrs. Castellane?" A woman's voice, shaking. "My name is Simone Okafor. I'm a federal prosecutor. I'm also one of the mothers whose baby you found in that basement." I remembered. 3 babies in the hidden nursery. 3 families who'd buried empty coffins. "Your baby," I started, "is alive because of you." She was crying. "The FBI contacted me 2 hours ago. Showed me photos, my son, my Kian. He's alive. I held his funeral 3 weeks ago, and he's alive." "I'm glad," I said, and meant it with everything in me. "I need to meet with you," Simone said. "Not as a prosecutor, as a mother, because this trafficking ring goes deeper than we thought. The 23 babies you recovered, that's just one location. Dr. Moretti's files show 8 other sites across 3 states, potentially hundreds more stolen children." My stomach dropped. Hundreds? "This isn't over, Mrs. Castellane. What you uncovered is the tip of something massive. And the people involved, politicians, judges, wealthy families, they're going to fight to bury this. But I can't let them. Not when my son was one of the stolen. Not when there are mothers out there still believing their babies are dead." I looked at Zephyrine, now sleeping peacefully in my arms, milk-drunk and safe. I thought about the 3 babies in that basement, the 23 at Belvedere Estate, the hundreds more that might still be out there. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Everything. Your testimony, Salvine's testimony, access to Dr. Moretti, and whatever information he's provided. I'm building a case that will destroy everyone involved, but it's going to be dangerous. These people have money, power, and everything to lose." "They already tried to kill us," I said. "We're not exactly safe now." "No," Simone agreed. "But together we can make sure no mother ever has to feel what we felt. Can I count on you?" I looked at Salvine. He nodded once. We were in this together. "Yes," I told Simone. "Whatever you need." We agreed to meet in 3 days, after I'd recovered enough to move without tearing my stitches, after Zephyrine had time to clear the sedation completely, after we'd had 72 hours to be a family. When I hung up, Salvine was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "You know this means war," he said quietly. "Not the quick, brutal kind I'm used to. The legal kind. Investigations, testimony, years of fighting people who'll use every resource to silence us." "I know." I adjusted Zephyrine in my arms. "But what's the alternative? Let them keep stealing babies? Let other mothers live through what we lived through? We could disappear. Take a Zephyrine somewhere they'll never find us. Let someone else fight this battle." "Could you?" I asked. "Could you really walk away knowing there are hundreds of stolen children out there?" He was quiet for a long time. Then, "No, I couldn't. Neither can I." He kissed my forehead. "Then we fight. But we fight smart. No more heroics. No more taking bullets." "I'd do it again," I said. "Every time. For her." "I know." His hand cupped Zephyrine head. "That's what terrifies me." We stayed at the clinic for 18 hours, resting, healing, learning how to be parents under the supervision of medical staff who'd seen enough of Salvine's world to ask no questions. When we finally went home, it was to a penthouse fortress. Armed guards, bulletproof windows, safe room with supplies to last weeks if necessary. This was the world my daughter was born into. Violence and protection, danger and fierce love, all tangled together until they couldn't be separated. 3 days later, Simone Okafor arrived with briefcases full of evidence and eyes full of determination. She'd brought 2 other mothers, women whose babies had been recovered from Belvedere Estate, women who'd buried empty coffins and now held living miracles. We sat around my dining table and planned how to burn down an empire built on stolen children. It was going to be brutal, messy, dangerous, but looking at Zephyrine sleeping in her bassinet, I knew it was necessary. Some wars you choose, some choose you. This one chose us the moment they touched our daughter. And we were going to finish it. The first lawsuit arrived 6 days after we turned evidence over to the FBI. A senator's wife claiming defamation and demanding $10 million in damages for falsely accusing her of purchasing a stolen infant. Her lawyers were from a firm that charged $1,500 per hour. The second came from a hedge fund manager whose baby girl was among the 23 recovered. He claimed we'd kidnapped his legally adopted daughter and demanded her return plus damages. By the end of the week, we faced 8 lawsuits totaling $47 million. "They're burying us in legal action," Simone said, spreading papers across my coffee table. "Classic intimidation tactic. Make it so expensive and time-consuming to pursue justice that victims give up." "We're not giving up," I said. Zephyrine nursed at my breast, oblivious to the war being waged around her. "They're also applying political pressure. The FBI investigation is being reviewed by a special committee, which means politicians are trying to kill it before it implicates their friends." Salvine entered from the nursery, phone pressed to his ear, face carved from stone. He ended the call and looked at me. "Dr. Moretti is dead, suicide in federal custody, hung himself with bedsheets." My blood went cold. He was our primary witness. "Exactly." Salvine's voice was flat. "Someone got to him, made it look like suicide, but I'd bet my empire he was murdered. His encrypted files," I started, "are being contested in court. 3 different law firms are claiming he was illegally searched, that the evidence is inadmissible, that we violated his civil rights by interrogating him. We tortured him," I said bluntly. "Let's not pretend otherwise." "And he confessed to 18 years of child trafficking," Salvine countered. "Which matters more, his rights or the hundreds of babies he sold?" It wasn't that simple. I knew it wasn't. But holding Zephyrine made everything simple. Right and wrong became crystal clear when your child was the victim. Simone's phone buzzed. She read the message, and her face went pale. "The hospital administrator at Northwestern just issued a statement. Says the alleged trafficking ring was actually a legitimate private adoption service operating with proper licenses. Claims we broke into private property, assaulted medical staff, and stole babies from legal guardians." They're rewriting history, I said. They're trying to. Simone's jaw set. But I have something they don't. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I've been investigating for 6 days straight, called in favors from every contact I have, and I found the protection. Who? Salvine leaned forward. Congressman Gerald Voss, Illinois 4th District, 15 years in the House, just nominated for federal judgeship. He's been taking payments from the trafficking ring since 2007. Over $8 million total, laundered through campaign donations and PACs. She spread out financial documents. But it's worse than bribery. He was also a client. In 2010, his wife had a miscarriage. 6 months later, they had a baby girl. No adoption records, no pregnancy, just suddenly a daughter. That daughter's DNA doesn't match either of them. He bought a stolen baby, I said, then spent 15 years making sure the trafficking ring stayed protected, buried investigations, redirected FBI resources, killed grand jury proceedings. He's not just complicit, he's the architect. Salvine studied the documents. This is good, but can you prove it in court? Maybe, if I can keep the case alive long enough. But Voss has friends in high places. The day after his judgeship was announced, 3 of my ongoing investigations were suddenly closed for lack of resources. How do we stop him? I asked. Simone looked between us. Legal channels are compromised. Normal prosecution will take years, and he'll use that time to destroy evidence and silence witnesses. But there's another way. She pulled out a different folder. Thinner, more dangerous. I've documented everything. His payments, his daughter's DNA test, connections to Dr. Moretti and to Sarah Barone. If this information went public, not through official channels but through media leaks, his nomination would collapse. The scandal would force investigations he can't control. You're asking us to leak it, Salvine said. I'm asking you to finish what you started. Simone's voice was steady. You saved my son. Saved 23 babies. But there are hundreds more out there. Voss knows where they are. His files contain buyer information, location data, everything we need. But we'll never get access legally. He's too protected. So we go around the law, I said. I'm a federal prosecutor. Simone met my eyes. I can't officially condone this, but unofficially, I'll provide everything you need and look the other way while you do what needs to be done. It was a line, clear and distinct, on one omnius legal process and moral high ground. On the other, results and justice. I'd already crossed that line when I tortured Moretti, when I shot it to Sarah's estate, when I chose to become the thing I'd always fought against. What do you need? I asked. Simone handed me a USB drive. Everything's here. Financial records, DNA evidence, phone logs. Leak it to the right journalists and Voss's career is over. But be careful. He has resources and no morals. If he finds out you're the source, he'll come after you with everything. He's welcome to try, Salvine said. 3 days later, the story broke. The Chicago Tribune ran it front page. Federal judge nominee linked to child trafficking ring. The evidence was overwhelming, impossible to deny. Congressman Gerald Voss held a press conference, denied everything, called it a political hit job. His lawyers threatened to sue the Tribune. Then the DNA results leaked. His daughter, the one he'd raised for 15 years, wasn't his biological child, and her birth certificate was a forgery created by Dr. Moretti. The nomination was withdrawn within hours. FBI opened a new investigation with explicit orders from the director, no interference from political channels. We'd won. But victory felt hollow because 2 days later, someone tried to kill us. The bomb was small, placed under our car in the penthouse parking garage. Sophisticated, military grade. It would have killed everyone inside the vehicle. Salvine's security team found it during routine sweep. Pure luck we weren't dead. Voss, Salvine said, studying photos of the device. Has to be. Or one of the families we exposed. I countered. We've made a lot of enemies. Doesn't matter who. Matters that they missed. His eyes went cold. They won't get a second chance. He mobilized his organization. Within 48 hours, he'd identified the bomber, a former Special Forces operator now working private security, the same firm employed by 3 of the families suing us. Salvine had the man brought to a warehouse. I didn't go. Didn't ask what happened. But the bombing attempts stopped. Sometimes the law worked. Sometimes Salvine's methods worked. I was learning to accept we needed both. Simone called 3 weeks after the story broke. Voss is cooperating, giving up locations, buyer names, everything, in exchange for reduced charges. What about the families? I asked. The stolen children? FBI recovered 38 more babies in the last week. 8 different states. All were told their children had died or been legally adopted. Most are being reunited with biological parents. Most, not all. Some families had fled internationally. Some babies were too young to have dental records or DNA on file. Some would never be identified. But 38 families got their children back. 38 mothers held babies they thought were dead. It wasn't enough. Would never be enough. But it was something. There's one more thing, Simone said. Another trafficking ring. Different network, different methods, but operating in Milwaukee. I have preliminary evidence, but not enough for warrants. I need help, I finished. You need what we did in Chicago. Yes. I looked at Zephyrine, now 6 weeks old, sleeping peacefully in her crib. She was safe, healthy, thriving, everything I'd fought for. But there were other babies out there, other mothers living my nightmare. We'll help, I said. When I told Salvine, he didn't argue, just nodded. How long? Few weeks, maybe a month. Simone has contacts inside the Milwaukee organization. We'd be support, muscle, and resources while she builds the case. Dangerous. Everything's dangerous. I touched his face. But we can't walk away. You know we can't. He pulled me close, careful of my still healing shoulder. We became parents to build something better. But I'm starting to think better requires burning down the bad first. Maybe, I kissed him. Or maybe we're just parents who refuse to let other parents suffer what we suffered. That too. Simone arrived the next day with files on the Milwaukee operation. Bigger than Chicago. More sophisticated. Run by people with connections that made Tessera Barone look like small time. This is going to take months, she said. Maybe years. And it's going to be dangerous in ways Chicago wasn't. These people kill witnesses without hesitation. So do we, Salvine said simply. She looked at us, me with my 6-week-old daughter, him with blood on his hands that would never wash clean, both of us choosing to dive deeper into darkness. What changed you? She asked me quietly. You were a trauma surgeon. You saved lives. Now you're still saving lives, I interrupted. Just differently. The system failed my daughter, failed your son, failed hundreds of babies who deserve protection. So I'm done waiting for systems to work. 3 months later, I stood in an abandoned textile factory outside Milwaukee, holding a crying infant I just pulled from a modified shipping container. Around me, Salvine's men secured 11 more babies, all under 6 months old, all reported as stillborn or lost to SIDS, all very much alive. The Milwaukee ring was different, colder. They didn't even pretend these babies would go to loving homes. This was pure trafficking, selling infants to the highest bidder, no questions asked, no medical care provided beyond keeping them alive long enough to transport. Thessaly, Salvine called. He stood over a woman zip-tied to a chair, mid-40s, expensive clothes now torn and dirty, makeup smeared with tears. This is Margaret Brennan, CEO of Brennan Medical Supply. She's been funding the operation. I walked over, still holding the crying baby against my chest. She was dehydrated, diaper rash so severe it had bled, ribs visible through paper-thin skin, neglected, starving, suffering. How much did you pay? I asked Margaret. To steal these children? I didn't steal anyone, she hissed. I provided a service. These babies would have died in the system anyway. Teen mothers, addicts, women who couldn't care for them. Lies. Simone emerged from the shadows. Over the last 3 months, she'd become more than a prosecutor. She'd become a hunter. We tracked down 8 of the mothers, All were told their babies died during delivery. All have medical records showing healthy births. You had doctors on your payroll forge death certificates. Margaret's face went pale. You can't prove. I can prove everything. Simone held up her phone. Recording started when we entered. You just confessed on tape to conspiracy, fraud, and child trafficking. Multiple federal charges, each carrying 20 years minimum. I want my lawyer. You'll get one after FBI arrives. Simone looked at me. ETA 10 minutes. We need to clear out. We'd learned from Chicago. This time we'd built the case legally first. Warrants, evidence, proper chain of custody. Simone had spent 12 weeks infiltrating the network, documenting every transaction. What we'd done tonight, the breach, the rescue, was technically illegal entry. But we'd saved 12 babies. Simone would testify she pursued suspects to this location after witnessing suspicious activity. The recordings would be admissible. The babies would go home. Sometimes justice required creative interpretation of legal boundaries. We loaded the infants into vehicles equipped with car seats and medical supplies. Each baby had a file, name, approximate birth date, location of theft. Simone had matched them to missing persons reports filed by desperate mothers who'd been told their babies died, 12 reunions waiting to happen. As we drove away, FBI vehicles appeared in the rearview mirror. They'd find Margaret Brennan and 3 of her associates, all restrained and surrounded by evidence. They'd find the shipping containers converted into nurseries. They'd find medical records, financial documents, everything needed to dismantle the network. This is the 4th ring we've broken in 3 months, Salvine said quietly. How many more are out there? Simone estimates at least 20 major operations nationwide, I said. The baby in my arms had finally stopped crying, exhausted into sleep. Could take years to find them all. We have years. He glanced at me. Unless you want to stop. Did I? 3 months of this work had changed me in ways I couldn't articulate. I barely slept, had nightmares about babies crying in darkness. Lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. My surgical skills were getting rusty from disuse. But 12 babies were going home tonight because we didn't stop. No, I said. We don't stop until they're all home. Back in Chicago, Zephyrine waited with Salvine's mother, a formidable woman who'd raised her son in the Mafia world and understood why we disappeared for days at a time. She handed me my daughter with knowing eyes. You're doing important work, she said, but don't lose yourself doing it. Too late for that warning. I'd lost myself the moment someone stole my newborn. What I'd found in the wreckage was harder, sharper, more dangerous. A mother who would burn the world to protect not just her child, but all children. Zephyrine nursed hungrily. At 3 months old, she was thriving, hitting milestones early, sleeping through the night, smiling at everything. She had no memory of those first terrible hours, no trauma from being stolen. But I remembered for her, would always remember. My phone rang. Simone. All 12 babies matched to families, reunions scheduled for tomorrow. Thought you'd want to know. I do. Thank you. There's something else. Gerald Voss's trial started today. His lawyers are claiming he didn't know the adoption was illegal, playing the victim. My jaw clenched. What are his chances? Honestly? 50-50. He's got expensive lawyers and sympathetic jury members who think he was duped. She paused. Unless someone testifies about what they saw in his files, the buyer information, the photos he kept of other available babies, the emails showing he knew exactly what he was purchasing. You have all that evidence. I do, but it's technically inadmissible, obtained during the illegal search of his home that happened before warrants were issued. Another pause. However, if someone leaked that information to media, if it became public knowledge, the jury would be influenced, even if it couldn't be used in court. You're asking me to leak it? I'm telling you, it exists. What you do with that information is your choice. The evidence appeared on WikiLeaks 6 hours later. Photos, emails, buyer profiles, all showing Gerald Voss wasn't a duped victim, but an active participant who'd purchased multiple babies over the years. keeping photos of them like trophies. Public outrage exploded. The judge declared a mistrial, but immediately ordered a new trial with maximum charges. Voss's lawyers withdrew. His wife filed for divorce. His daughter, the stolen baby he'd raised, was undergoing counseling to process the revelation. He was destroyed, utterly, permanently, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no vindication. Just exhaustion. "You need to rest," Salvine said, finding me on the balcony at 2 a.m., Zephyrine asleep in my arms. "You haven't slept in 30 hours. Can't sleep. Keep seeing their faces. The babies in those shipping containers. How scared they must have been. How much pain. You saved them. That's what matters." "But how many didn't we save?" My voice cracked. "How many are still out there suffering right now while we sleep in our fortress?" He had no answer. Neither did I. The next day we attended one of the reunions. A mother named Carolina, who'd been told her son died during delivery. She'd buried an empty coffin, mourned for 8 months, nearly died from the grief. When Simone placed that baby in her arms, Carolina collapsed, just folded in on herself, sobbing so hard no sound came out, holding her son, her living, breathing, real son. "Thank you," she kept saying. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." I couldn't speak, could barely breathe, because that should have been me. I'd gotten my daughter back within hours. Carolina had suffered for 8 months. "We're not done," I told her. "There are more. We'll find them all." It was a promise I might not be able to keep, but I'd die trying. Simone pulled me aside before we left. "I have another case, Boston this time. Smaller operation, but connected to the same international buyers we keep seeing. Could be the link that breaks the whole network wide open. When do we leave?" "Thessaly." Her voice was gentle. "You have a 3-month-old daughter. You were shot 3 months ago. You're running on fumes and rage. Maybe sit this one out." "No." I looked at Zephyrine, sleeping peacefully in her carrier. "She's why I do this. So she grows up in a world where babies don't get stolen, where mothers don't have to bury empty coffins, where the system actually protects the innocent. That world doesn't exist. Then we build it, one rescued baby at a time." Simone studied me for a long moment. "You know you've become exactly what you used to fight against, right? Vigilante justice, torture, murder. You're no different than Salvine now." The words should have hurt, should have made me question everything. Instead, I just nodded. "I know, and I'm okay with that. Because 12 babies went home tonight, because Carolina is holding her son, because Zephyrine is safe." "And when she's old enough to understand what you did?" Simone asked quietly. "When she asks about the bodies you left behind, the laws you broke, the person you became, what will you tell her?" I looked at my daughter. So small, so perfect, so worth everything I'd sacrificed. "I'll tell her the truth," I said. "That I did terrible things to protect innocent lives. That sometimes being good requires doing bad. That I'd make the same choices again." "Will she understand?" "I don't know." I touched Zephyrine's soft hair. "But I hope I'm raising her in a world safe enough that she never has to." 3 weeks later, we broke the Boston ring. 17 babies recovered, 2 more reunions, another trafficking network destroyed. And still, Simone's files showed more. Always more. Babies stolen in Seattle, Denver, Miami, Los Angeles. A network spanning the entire country. Maybe the world. We couldn't stop them all, but we could try. Do they continue the fight or finally rest? 6 months after Zephyrine came home, we sat in federal court as Gerald Voss was sentenced to 43 years in prison. No parole, no early release. He'd die behind bars. The judge read the charges: conspiracy to traffic children, fraud, corruption, obstruction of justice. 27 counts total. The evidence, even without the leaked files, was overwhelming. As they led him away, Voss looked directly at me. His eyes held pure hatred. He knew what we'd done, who'd destroyed him, why his life had ended. I stared back without flinching. Let him see what a mother looked like when you threatened her child. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Simone handled most questions, but one journalist pushed through directly to me. Mrs. Castellane, how does it feel knowing your investigation led to 73 babies being recovered? 73. The number had grown as more rings fell, more connections were traced, more mothers came forward, 73 families reunited, 73 children saved. It feels like we're just beginning, I said. Because it was true. Simone's current files showed 12 more operations, possibly hundreds more stolen babies. The work was endless. That night, at home, I sat in Zephyrine nursery watching her sleep. 9 months old now, crawling, babbling, learning to pull herself up on furniture. Perfect and whole and safe. Salvine found me there at midnight. You're thinking about the others. Always. I touched Zephyrine hand. Every night I put her to bed. I think about the babies who don't have mothers to tuck them in, who are being held in warehouses or shipping containers, or sold to people who see them as property. We've saved over 70. And how many are still out there? My voice cracked. 100? 1,000? More? He sat beside me. We can't save them all. I know. The words tasted like failure, but we have to try. My phone buzzed. Text from Simone. New lead, Atlanta. Big operation, need you. I looked at the message, then at Zephyrine, then at Salvine. She needs her mother, he said gently. You've been gone more than you've been home these last 6 months. Maybe it's time to step back. Let Simone and FBI handle it. He was right. I knew he was right. Zephyrine was growing up with a mother who disappeared for weeks, who came home exhausted and distant, who held her tight but thought about other babies. I can't, I whispered. Every time I think about stopping, I see Carolina's face when she held her son. I see the babies in those shipping containers. I see what could have happened to Zephyrine if we'd been minutes slower. So you'll sacrifice being her mother to save other children? The question was brutal, honest, necessary. No. I picked up Zephyrine, held her close. I'm going to figure out how to be both. How to be the mother she needs and the person who won't let other mothers suffer. That's impossible. Then I'll do the impossible. I looked at him. Come with me, to Atlanta. Bring your mother to watch Zephyrine. We do this together, as a family. Show our daughter that protecting innocence is worth fighting for. He studied me for a long time, then nodded. Okay, but we're bringing security. And Zephyrine stays in a safe house, nowhere near the operation. Agreed. Atlanta was worse than Milwaukee, worse than Chicago, worse than anything we'd seen. The trafficking ring wasn't selling babies to desperate parents. They were selling them to medical research facilities, underground labs using infants for experimental drug trials, genetic testing, procedures that would never get approved on adults. We found 29 babies. 8 were dead. The others were scarred, damaged, suffering from the tests inflicted on them. I held a 6-month-old boy with surgical scars across his chest from experimental heart procedures. He was alive but would need surgeries for the rest of his life to repair what they'd done. Who does this? I whispered. What kind of monster? The kind that sees profit, not people, Simone said. Her voice was dead. After 6 months of this work, something had broken in her too. The kind we keep finding. We burned that facility to the ground, literally. Salvine's men made sure every lab, every record, every piece of equipment was destroyed. The scientists who'd tortured babies disappeared. I didn't ask where. Didn't want to know. The 21 surviving babies went to a specialized children's hospital. Most would recover physically. Emotionally? That was a longer road. Flying home, I held Zephyrine and cried. Just sat in the private jet Salvine had chartered and sobbed while my daughter patted my face with her tiny hands, confused why Mama was sad. I can't do this anymore, I said to Salvine. I can't keep seeing these things and come home and pretend the world is safe. Then don't pretend, He took my hand. Show her the truth, that the world is dangerous, but we fight to make it better. That's the legacy we're building. Is it enough? I don't know. He was honest. Always honest. But it's what we have. 2 weeks later, Simone called with news. The Atlanta raid led to something massive. We traced financial records and found the source, a pharmaceutical company called GeneSys International. They've been funding illegal research for years, using trafficked babies as test subjects. If we can prove it, this could destroy them. What do you need? Testimony from the mothers. Proof their babies were stolen, sold, used. It'll be brutal. Reliving trauma, facing media, being attacked by defense lawyers. But it's the only way to hold GeneSys accountable. I thought about Carolina, about the other mothers I'd met, about women who'd buried empty coffins and were just starting to heal. I'll do it, I said. I'll testify. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of depositions, testimony, evidence, presentation. 8 months of defense lawyers calling me a vigilante, a criminal, unfit to testify. 8 months of reliving the night Zephyrine was stolen. But in the end, the jury convicted. GeneSys International was ordered to pay $340 million in damages, dissolved as a corporation, and 15 executives were sentenced to federal prison. 147 babies were traced to their program. 82 were recovered alive. 65 died during experiments. 65. Children who would never grow up, who'd been tortured and killed for profit. The number haunted me, still haunts me. Zephyrine turned 2 years old during the trial. She called me Mama, loved books about animals, laughed when Salvine chased her around the apartment. She was perfect. But she was growing up in a home where armed guards were normal, where Mama sometimes disappeared for weeks, where the news showed her parents' faces talking about dead babies and trafficking rings. Will she be okay? I asked Salvine one night. I don't know, he said. But she'll be strong, brave, compassionate, because that's what you're showing her. Or traumatized, scared, damaged. Maybe both. He pulled me close. But she'll never doubt that we love her, that we fought for her and every child like her. That's something. The trial ended on a Wednesday. Guilty verdicts, maximum sentences, justice served. We flew home exhausted and empty. Simone met us at the airport. I have another case. No? The word came out flat. Final. I'm done. Her eyes widened. Thessaly. I have a 2-year-old daughter who barely knows me, a marriage held together by shared trauma, a career I abandoned. I've given 6 years to this work. I need to give the next 6 to my family. There are still babies out there. There will always be babies out there. Tears streamed down my face, and it's breaking me. I can't save them all. I can't fix everything. I can only be Zephyrine's mother, and I'm choosing that. Simone looked devastated. So you're just walking away? No, I'm stepping back. You have my testimony, my evidence, my contacts. You have Salvine's resources if you need them. But I'm done being the one who raids buildings and holds dying babies and testifies in court. Someone else has to carry this now. She nodded slowly. Understood, even if she didn't agree. Okay, but if you change your mind, I won't. At home, I held Zephyrine for hours. Just sat on the couch with my daughter in my lap, breathing in her scent, memorizing her laugh, being present for the first time in years. Hi, Mama, she said, patting my face. You stay now? Yes, baby, I stay now. Salvine found us like that, mother and daughter, finally at peace. You sure about this? He asked. No, I was honest, but I'm doing it anyway, because she needs me more than the cause does. The cause will survive without you. Will the babies? The question haunted me. Would my stepping back mean more children suffered? More mothers buried empty coffins? Some will, some won't. He sat beside us. But that's not your responsibility anymore. You did your part. Saved over 200 babies, destroyed 6 trafficking rings, sent dozens to prison. You earned the right to rest. Rest. The word felt foreign. 3 months passed. I didn't check Simone's files, didn't follow trafficking cases, didn't watch the news when they reported recovered babies. Instead, I watched Zephyrine learn to talk in full sentences, helped her build block towers, read bedtime stories about princesses and dragons. Slowly, the nightmares faded, the guilt lessened, the constant rage quieted to something manageable. I started painting again, something I'd loved before medical school. Therapy helped. Marriage counseling with Salvine helped more. We were healing, becoming a family instead of soldiers in a war. Then Simone called. "I know you're out," she said, "but there's something you need to know. We found her." Found who? Sarah Barone's international buyer, the one who specializes in children from powerful families. He has 23 kids, ages 2 to 16, all stolen as infants, including 3 from mafia families, 2 from political dynasties, 1 from European royalty. My chest tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because one of them is asking questions. A 14-year-old girl who doesn't look like her parents, doesn't feel like she belongs, did a DNA test that showed no relation. She's searching for her biological family. And? And I think I can prove she's Salvine's niece, your daughter's cousin, stolen from his brother's family 12 years ago. They think she died in childbirth. They buried an empty coffin. The world stopped. "We have family out there," I whispered. "Yes, and she's asking who she really is. You could give her that answer." I looked at Zephyrine, coloring at her little table, humming a song from preschool. Then I looked at Salvine. His face had gone pale. "My brother," he said quietly. "My brother lost a daughter. I was at the funeral, watched him bury an empty coffin. It destroyed him. He never recovered." "She's alive," Simone said, "and she wants to come home." One more case, one more rescue, one more family reunited. I looked at Salvine, he looked at me, and we both knew we couldn't walk away from this. "Tell us where she is," Salvine said. As Simone gave us the information, Zephyrine looked up from her coloring. "Mama, you stay?" I crossed to her, knelt down, took her small face in my hands. "Yes, baby. I stay. Always. But first, Mama and Papa have to help someone. Someone like you who was taken from their family. We're going to bring them home." "Like you brought me home?" "Exactly like that." She thought about this, then nodded. "Okay, you bring them home, then you stay." "Then I stay," I promised. One more rescue, one more fight, one more mission. Because some wars never end. They just teach you what you're willing to sacrifice. And family, blood or chosen, is always worth fighting for. Thank you for following Thessaly and Salvine's story. If you want to see them rescue his niece, comment family. And subscribe, because sometimes the battles we choose define us more than the ones forced upon us.